bread and wheat is in all of this. And I think the number one Christian rebuttal to all of this is, wait a second, but Jesus ate bread. Jesus ate bread. Guys, I've talked about this a lot on other podcasts, and I've talked about this in other videos. I've talked about this on other people's podcasts. The grain that people of the past ate is nothing like the frankenfood bread that you and I ate today. Jesus was not eating Wonder Bread or Iron Kids bread or bread, cheesy garlic rolls from Red Lobster. He wasn't doing that. The grain that Jesus likely ate, along with most anyone in ancient history, was hearty. It was nutritionally dense, and it was very complex. A long time ago, they used hearty varieties of wheat like emmer, einkorn, khorosan. These were rich. They had zinc. They had magnesium. They were packed with micronutrients, packed with minerals. These things were like a meal in of themselves. The wheat we eat today is not the same. Today, our wheat, we nicknamed it dwarf wheat because it grows a third of the size of regular wheat. Why? So we can harvest it faster. Blunted stems made for ease of transport because of the size and the high amounts you can grow are the reasons why it's called dwarf wheat. It made it cheap. It made it effective to produce. That's why they changed it. It wasn't for taste. It wasn't for nutrition. And it wasn't for you. It was for them, and it was to make it cheap and effective to produce and easy to produce. The grain fields that Jesus and his disciples picked from in the scriptures looked nothing like the wheat that we see today. Okay? Now, the worst byproduct of dwarf wheat isn't even the size, although that's kind of funny. It's that it's less nutritious and harder to digest. You wonder why there's so much celiac disease. You wonder why people are gluten intolerant. It's not because everyone is a wuss today in the United States. It's because the wheat has been changed. Since we started producing things like this and agriculture began genetically altering wheat, concentrations of copper, zinc, iron, and magnesium have plummeted close to 30% from 1968 to 2005 than it was in the previous period. We've lost so many minerals and vitamins in our food as a result of the way we've been changing the food. So people walk around magnesium deficient, they walk around zinc deficient. We've got to take supplements as a result. We're walking around with celiac disease because the food has been changing. Now let me walk you through a little bit of the making of bread in the United States. This will help you understand kind of why the food Jesus ate wasn't the same way we ate it. First, the machines are going to go through the fields and they're going to remove debris and sticks and rocks and chaff, right? That's going to happen. High temperature steam conditioning is going to happen. It's going to spray the wheat so the berries don't naturally ferment. So it's changing the way that they were initially created to be produced. Endosperms are going to be separated, the least nutritious part of the wheat, but also the starchiest. And then it's going to be ground into fine powder. So you're going to take the least nutritious part of the wheat and the starchiest, which makes it like sort of squishy and chewy. And then you're going to ground that into a fine powder. So all of the other nutrients is gone. Then chlorine, bromates, and other chemicals are going to be that are banned, by the way, in Europe and other places, but are used here. We use those to standardize the texture of the wheat flour and change the appearance to remove any odors. For many wheats, at this point, wheat is bleached to, again, sort of standardize the texture so that way and standardize the smell. And because of the nutritious parts of the wheat were removed, the government mandates that these companies enrich, quote unquote, like I've talked about already, the wheat with synthetic vitamins. The problem, again, with synthetic vitamins and minerals is that oftentimes they are not very or fully bioavailable, meaning there could be added zinc in your bread. You might even see added omega-3s in your bread, added copper or added magnesium. They usually don't add copper because people don't think of copper as a health food. But in order for you to absorb zinc, you sort of need copper. So there's that. So they don't even add copper back in. But nonetheless, they'll remove these various, minerals, but then they'll add them back in and quote unquote enrich them. And the problem is these synthetic vitamins and minerals are not absorbable by the human body. So it doesn't matter. You can buy this bread specifically because it has vitamins and minerals added back in, but, well, it doesn't even help you anyway. Then bleached flour, the bleached flour that we have that's standardized, that's perfect for texture. So that way when you buy Dave's Killer Bread here and Dave's Killer Bread there, it's all the same or whatever. I don't know what kind of bread you eat. Oro wheat bread here, it's going to taste the same as in Ohio as it does in down in California. The bleached flour is going to sit in containers for 1 or 2 months before being packed into sacks or large containers and then being shipped off to consumers to make the processed food. Since the wheat hasn't fermented or sprouted or been soaked to remove anti-nutrients, the flour contains substances that damage the gut, that cause weight gain, and that leads to things like celiac disease and even causes things like autoimmune disorders or other chronic diseases. You've been lied to. Jesus did not make a turkey sandwich with, Best Foods mayonnaise with hydrogenated oil in it, or sunflower oil or canola oil, and then add and make that with Oro wheat bread, 9-grain bread or whatever. That's not what he did. The bread Jesus ate, and the bread that was rained down from heaven by God himself, included coriander seed. It was made with delicious and healthy oils, sometimes olive oils or butter. These breads were hearty, and they had lots of nutrition, lots of the things that we needed. Sorry to say, the bread that you eat is not the same as the same bread that Jesus ate. But what about meat? We talked about bread. What about meat? Isn't meat good? Well, the industrial meat industry is horrifying. You see all these documentaries from vegans around how meat is so bad for you. They really got it half right. Because the way meat is produced in the United States is horrifying. It's sad, honestly, for the animals, and it's unhealthy. And the industry produces sad and unhealthy animals, and it produces sad and unhealthy people. That's true. And the fact of the matter is, it's a major public health problem if more people are eating high quantities of industrial meat. So these documentaries you'll see on Netflix and Prime or whatever, they really have half of it right. Factory farmed meat is garbage, but another type of meat is good, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But farmed factory meat is loaded with mold toxins. It's loaded with pesticides from cheap grain feed and corn feed that these animals are given. A lot of these GMOs are spliced internally with the pesticides that keep bugs away from eating them. And so you might get a cow that's eating corn and grain, but the GMOs have been developed in these sort of plants to produce them so that way bugs don't eat them. The problem is the cows eat them. And the bugs aren't eating them, but it messes up the gut biome of the cow, and it makes the cows sick. Imagine what that would do to you if you were to eat those genetically modified corn stalks and wheat. What might happen to you? Well, we know what's happening to us. Cancer, diabetes, stroke, heart attack, inflammation, all of these different things are happening. Autoimmune conditions, Hashimoto's, irritable bowel syndrome, GERD, everything. So now then Big Pharma comes in the back end, and they're going to sell you Prilosec, and they're going to sell you Gaviscon, and they're going to sell you Nexium, and they're going to sell you statin drugs to get your cholesterol down. They're coming right in, and they're just destroying you. But your cow that you're eating, that you're farmed, is eating those things, and then you're eating the cow, right? And to keep the animals from being sick, because they were going to get sick, what they do is they pump them full of antibiotics, oftentimes preemptively, to prevent them from getting sick, even though they should be sick based on their diet and lifestyle. So, are you what you eat? Because I've heard that phrase thrown around. You are what you eat. Yeah, you are what you eat, but really, you are what your food eats. You are what your food eats. The same antibiotics that the cows ingest are ingested by you. The same crossbred grain and GMO brain engineered so that way the bugs will die if they will eat it is ingested by you. Again, the animals are also in cruel, cramped conditions. As someone who's a Christian, I don't think we should be good stewards of the environment, good stewards of the planet, good stewards of the animals that we eat. We should not be locking cows' heads in vice grips so that they eat more so we can make more money, which is what happens. I'm from from Bay Area, Northern California, and if you drive from Southern California or from Northern California to Southern California or vice versa, you're going to cross a lot of these feedlots, and it stinks down there. But you oftentimes do see cows' heads locked in vice grips with big trays of corn and grain put right in front of their faces, so they eat. Some farms even accidentally or purposely feed their cows city garbage in their corn and grain. That's bad for your body. It's bad for the cow. It's bad for you. It's bad for the environment. It's no wonder when these different organizations do studies, like Harvard does studies on red meat, that participants come back worse than not eating it. Of course. The meat supply has been corrupted in the United States, and we are responsible. We have to be careful.